Hello everyone and welcome to a new video dedicated to our beloved Snoopy and the world of Peanuts. Today we analyze together a funny strip published on November 3rd, 1950. We are still in the early days of the series, but as always Schulz manages to give us comedy and food for thought in just a few cartoons. This time, Charlie Brown is struggling with a vision problem, or is he? Patty tests him, and his reaction is as funny as it is sweet, typical of his personality. Let's go discover the strip. The situation is simple. Patty asks Charlie Brown to read something, but not everything goes as planned. Let's see together what happens. In the first vignette, Patty, confident and authoritative, points to a chart with seemingly random letters and asks Charlie Brown to read the last line. Charlie, sitting in a small chair, looks puzzled. This scene introduces us to Schulz's subtle humor. The situation is reminiscent of a classic eye test, but the table is deliberately absurd. The letters follow no sensible order and even seem to be placed backwards. This is where the first comic level arises. Charlie Brown does not understand, and his question mark expresses all his confusion. This is one of the first situations in which Schulz plays with the absurdity of everyday life as seen through the eyes of children. In the second vignette, Charlie Brown admits that he cannot read the line. He seems genuinely frustrated. Here we see Charlie Brown's typical sweetness. He is honest and acknowledges his limitations without trying to be smart. It is also interesting to note that Schulz manages to represent body language with great simplicity. The child leans forward, a typical gesture of someone trying to strain to see better. The figure of Charlie Brown is often associated with failure, but Schulz uses this characteristic to make him realistic and human. Charlie Brown represents the insecurity and fragility that everyone experiences at least once in their lives. In the third vignette, Patty, acting as a teacher, suggests that Charlie Brown try to read the other two lines. Patty represents here the authority figure who challenges Charlie Brown. We note how the contrast between her confidence and Charlie Brown's uncertainty creates an interesting dynamic. This is a clear example of Patty's leadership, a character trait that Schulz would develop further in later strips. Patty, in these early strips, is one of the strongest characters. Lucy is not yet present, but Patty somewhat anticipates the decisive figure Lucy will have in the future. In the fourth vignette, Charlie Brown, dejected and with his head down, walks away saying, "I'm only 4 years old, and already I need glasses." This punchline is the icing on the cake. Charlie Brown, as always, reacts with a mix of innocence and resignation. Schulz manages to make us smile and at the same time feel empathy for the little protagonist. Charlie Brown is only 4 years old at this stage of the strips, a detail that is often forgotten as the character grows. This line also highlights another recurring theme in the Peanuts, the early maturity of children who approach adult situations with a philosophical spirit. Insights and trivia. Sight tests with letters of decreasing size were invented in the 19th century and are still used today. Schulz turns them into a funny gag, twisting their meaning and using letters in no logical order. In these early strips, Charlie Brown is still a very young character, but his character is already well defined. He is a kind, insecure, and often unfortunate child, but at the same time tender and lovable. This episode anticipates many of his future characteristics. Patty is one of the main characters in the very early Peanut strips, but over time she will lose centrality to other characters such as Lucy, Linus, and Schroeder. Interestingly, Schulz often uses her as a decisive and rational figure interacting with Charlie Brown. This strip is a perfect example of how Schulz manages to build humor with simple, everyday situations. All it takes is a wrong eye test to create a small masterpiece of comedy. The November 3rd, 1950 strip is a perfect example of Charles Schulz's subtle and clever humor. In just 4 cartoons, he manages to make us smile with the sweetness and innocence of Charlie Brown, while at the same time showing us a world of small, everyday problems that we can all understand. Did you enjoy this strip? What do you think of Patty's character in these early appearances? Write it below in the comments.
If you enjoyed yourself, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the little bell. to stay updated and see you next time.